Hi, everyone, welcome. I'm Jenny, and I would like to welcome you all to our 15th Annual Caregiver Conference. We're thrilled to have you join us. As a reminder, there are 2 classrooms for this conference, and you are currently in conference room A. If you have any questions during this presentation, please use the Q&A button found at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and you can also use the chat to talk to me at any time during the presentation. So now it is my pleasure to welcome this session's presenter, Klea Harris. Klea Harris is an attorney with Angel Advocates, where she focuses on estate planning for young families and the retirement community. She also serves as the chair of the Utah Valley Caregiver Conference and participates in the Utah Bar's Business and Estate Planning sections as vice president and legislative community. I'll now turn the time over to Klea.
Hello, everyone. I am just trying to log on through the phone audio so that you can have a better quality audio experience, because it's been my experience that there's been kind of a delay with my tech. So if you can just give me a minute. It's quite an adrenaline rush going from one classroom to the next and trying to get my computer to swap Zoom conferences. So one moment.
All right, does that sound better? Okay, are we good? Okay, so my audio's on the phone so that I'm connected, and so if there's any delay with my video, it won't be too bad as far as our audio. So I'm so grateful to have you all here. This is so exciting and such a culmination of so much. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you, and so let's get this going. Okay. Oh, great. We're working here. We're working. This is all on faith. We were just doing this whole planning on faith that this would work. Okay. Thank you for your moment here. Okay. Oh, here I come. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, let me see, find where you guys are. And, okay. Still figuring this out here. Find my meeting controls. Okay, let me get back to this. Okay, and okay, I'm going to, okay, whew. Okay, take a deep breath, everyone. Okay, if you got a caregiver kit, you probably got a breathe sticker. I'm reading my breathe sticker. Yeah. That was 10 minutes that I didn't expect to have to take. So I'm so grateful that we're here, we're going. I'm going to actually just express, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you. I want you to understand that I've been asked to pretty much squeeze everything that I've ever learned and would want you to know within 50 minutes. And now I only have 40 minutes. So please be patient. I've thought this through, and I really want to find a way to be able to answer any of your questions. So please know that I have a pathway for that. Jenny, do you have the link for the worksheet that I sent over to Stephanie to be put into the chat?
I will work to get that link set up for you.
Okay, so let me take a look here. Okay, well, you get that, because I sent that in an email to Stephanie, and she said that that would be in the chat, because it's super important. That's really the big way that we'll be able to do this today, is that if you have that worksheet, that you'll be able to open it up, and when you'll be able to click on the link, you'll be able to open it up, and in that worksheet is a list of things that we're going to be discussing today, rather abbreviated, a little bit even more abbreviated than expected. And there's also just probably 6 or 7 links of resources that I've compiled for you. And then also it will give you an opportunity to easily understand how to get your questions answered that I'm sure you're going to have, because I am going to be giving you really a fire hose of information today, and want to make sure that you are not leaving here feeling turmoil amidst the storm. We want you to feel calm amidst the storm. We want you to feel like, okay, I have a plan, I have resources that are available to me, and I know how I can get the questions that I have answered. So that's how I want you to feel when we leave today. So Jenny, when you get that link, would you please interrupt me and let everyone know that? When you get the link in the chat, what you're going to do is you're going to copy it, so highlight it and Control C. You're going to open up a Google Doc or a Word document, and you're going to, you're going to copy it, and you're going to click on it, and it should open up my document that I've prepared for you, and you're going to copy it and then put it into your own document. That way you can take notes on it if you want. You can mark it. You can put an X. I have a list of things that I want you to kind of do a self-evaluation. You can put an X on it. You can also click on the hyperlinks, and it'll take you straight to the other opportunities for information. So we're going to be looking for that. Jenny I'm excited for that to come. And so anyway, I just want you to sit back and let's dive into this very, very crazy topic of 5 legal messes. So I'm going to stop my video. I want you to just focus on my presentation slides here, and we will get going. So, so I just want you to think, this is really hard. As Susan Madsen said, it's really hard to not be able to see you, to see the people I'm presenting to. And so I want you to just be thinking about who you're here for. And also sadly, I thought I would be able to read the chat. It looks like I am not able to read the chat while I am presenting. So I will leave that to Jenny to, at the end, for question and answers, that if we have some time, if I'm able to breeze through a little bit faster. So I want you to think about who you're here for. Who is your loved ones? Who are the people you're serving? Why are you here in this crazy topic? Certainly not something that people choose to spend their time doing. This is a picture of who I'm here for, and one of the big reasons why I do what I do as an estate planning attorney. These are my whys. This picture was taken years ago and reminds me of this magical time when I had my parents who lived close by. My children were all at home. This is years and years ago. You can tell by the length of my hair. Grandma Phipps and Grandpa Hall were alive, and all my kids were living at home. But times change, and your life changes. It changes so fast. And the daughter left for college. My parents left for Colorado. My Kent and Richard, my sons, both left for college as well. Then my Grandpa Hall here passed away. And then my other daughter also left for college. And so all of these changes in situations, they all are linked to stories I could tell about each and every one of them, that how their lives with mine intersected with legal messes that we're going to be discussing today, because of course I'm the lawyer in the family, and my life therefore intersects with their lives in one. But I don't think I just have bad luck. I believe every family is vulnerable to being ambushed by the legal system. Life is full of caring and giving and losing and loving, and there are these things that you can do using the legal system to make that uphill climb smooth and safe, with sunshine and guardrails, or you can choose to ignore the proper planning and not only have an uphill climb, but one strewn with debris and dangerous cliffs and terrible weather. So the things we're going to discuss today will enable you to experience calm amidst the storm of life. So really be honest with yourself about what you need to address in your life or on behalf of a loved one that you care for. So let's dive right in. Today, we're going to be briefly discussing debt harassment, scams, advanced health care directive, powers of attorney, and dive deep into the avalanche of issues that come with estate planning. So properly understanding a power of attorney versus guardianship is so significant that I've been asked by Mountain Land Association of Governments to explore that exclusively later on this evening at 6 p.m. in Classroom A. So every awful, contentious family mess I have been called in to help with while the parent is still living has centered around misunderstandings regarding the roles and responsibilities of power of attorney versus guardianship. So I just cannot emphasize enough how tragic this misunderstanding of roles is and what terrible impact it has on the entire family's relationship and finances. So if you're interested, please tune in to Classroom A tonight for a great discussion on that subject. So let's get started. Debt harassment. This is an example of resources I'm familiar with because I work with aging populations. So when a client comes to me with a problem that's tangential to my specialty, I just try and find the answer. And I knew this has helped so many people, I needed to share it here with you today. So I presented at a retirement community, and an elderly woman lingered afterwards to speak with me. And she had been pursued by her deceased ex-husband's creditors, calling her incessantly, several times a day for the past year, and had devastatingly watched her perfect credit plummet. So she had no income besides her meager salary working as the housekeeper in that community, and had been allowed to live there to make ends meet following her divorce. So I referred her to Helps Is Here. It's Helps with an S. Helps Is Here. It's a nonprofit law firm that represents seniors, retired persons, veterans, and disabled persons on federally exempt Social Security, pensions, and disability. And so also VA benefits and even a modest wage. In order to stop unwanted collector contact. And so they represented her for free and were able to restore her credit and stop the harassment. So I personally believe this is unethical, and bankruptcy is not necessary when they are judgment-proof. So if you know a loved one who is overwhelmed and ashamed because of circumstances that are often outside their control, then please get out a piece of paper until we can get that, that worksheet that I've created available for you. Please get out a piece of paper, write their name down, and write down this website. They are amazing. I've talked with them personally. This is a mission for them. This is a passion that they have to be able to bring peace to these populations. So please, Helps Is Here is the name of that organization. So I couldn't take this slide out when the scam scene was just been swirling around me just in the past 2 months. So let's talk about a few of these. Identity theft. I'm serious. I had my credit card stolen 3 weeks ago and found $600 charges at Lowe's in Visalia, California, where I've never been. Fortunately, I caught it within 2 hours because they sent a receipt to my email, so I was able to quickly cancel my card. How about charity fraud? Another coalition member, Judy Stegmeller, for the Caregiver Coalition. Some of you may know Judy. She's a great advocate in our caregiver support groups. She had a scammer hack her email that she's had for 35 years just last month. So this scammer sent a plea for help to all her contacts, asking for gift card numbers. So another coalition member actually responded and purchased a $200 gift card from Target because they wanted to help Judy out, because apparently she had some health problems, according to the scammer. Fortunately, Judy reached her in time, and she was able to return that gift card to Target before giving the numbers to the scammer. So Jerry Leonard, also we just heard from Jerry. She's the head of our Caregiver Coalition, and she's presenting right now in Classroom A. She was just scammed 2 weeks ago, and she's given me permission to share the story. Someone called her while she was on vacation and told her she had missed jury duty and a warrant was out for her arrest unless she purchased a gift card and gave him the numbers on the back. So she actually called the courthouse and asked if the man worked there, and they said he did. So this is an example of an imposter scam. So obviously he was pretending to be somebody who worked at the courthouse. So she realized too late that he was an imposter. And once you give the gift card numbers, you can't trace that money. So rule number 1, please remember, never give anyone a gift card number or send money to someone you do not know. Be sure to talk with someone and get a second opinion or check out this website from the FTC. So you can see down there, I'm going to move this up here. consumerftc.gov. This is hyperlinked as well in my document that I hope that we will have in the chat for you as soon as possible. For those of you who received a caregiver kit, some of you may notice that you have a Pass It On folder that has a pile of wonderful resources in it that go into depth into each one of these scams. And if you would like a folder, please check your workbook sheet. So check your workbook sheet or make a note on the piece of paper until we get that workbook sheet to ask me to send you a folder with this information in it. So from the Federal Trade Commission as well. And when I get a new batch, I gave all of my my folders to the coalition to distribute to in our caregiver kit. So I'm plumb out. But if you're interested, please let me know and I will mail one to you. So above everything, don't be ashamed if you're a victim of a scam. If you know someone who could be vulnerable to a scam, please write their name down on your worksheet and commit to becoming educated and warning them about the different kinds of scams out there. So now we've talked a bit about how to avoid debt harassment and scams, but what happens to you if you become incapacitated? So there are two considerations here, the financial considerations and the considerations around how healthcare decisions are made for you. So you probably recognize this picture. It's Terry Schiavo. Maybe you remember her. She was the woman kept on life support for years while her parents and husband battled in court and about who could make medical decisions for her. So these terrible events could have been avoided if Terry had properly executed a simple document. So now many of you have executed such a document, but I can guarantee that for many of you, it's out of date and won't work when you need it. So it's unlikely to be comprehensive enough, providing the detailed guidance on how you want to be cared for in the event you become incapacitated. So it is essential that you also review who would make decisions for you. So in Utah, there is a presumptive order stating, starting with your spouse and then children. If you are not okay with that, then you must proactively sign a document stating the order and manner decisions are to be made. A close relative begged me for years to make medical decisions for her because she was, if she became incapacitated, but I wouldn't allow her to change her directive because I was afraid of what other family members would think. So in the end, she was denied escalating care she needed because her agent didn't want to pay for it. So myself and another close friend were forced to come into the assisted living facility and get her ready in the morning and put her to bed, among other things we needed to do for her. Because the agent who had both the financial power of attorney and medical power of attorney would yell at her and refuse to believe her when she was in severe pain after a fall. So I got her on hospice quickly so that she could get some pain management, but he then canceled the order. And after a month of begging him to let her go on hospice so her pain could be managed, he dragged her to the hospital to get an MRI because he was convinced that she was faking it. And that's what he would tell me. And he found out that she had a broken back. So she passed away less than a week later. And so please pay attention to how the people on your directive treat you. Please ensure you update it to those you feel safe and empowered by before you lose capacity to do so. Please do that because there's a difference between people who treat you with respect and honor and grace as you age and those who do not. And you do not want somebody on your healthcare directive who is not kind and gentle and empathetic. Also, if you want to make sure your wishes are comprehensive and honored at your capacity, if you have specific wishes for how you would want medical decisions made for you, then please update, mark that on your worksheet or the document that you're taking notes on. that I needed to update or review my healthcare directive, okay? Just quickly, before we move on from talking about healthcare directives, if you do have a loved one that you're caring for, and I want you to consider that worst possible scenario that nearly occurred at a large retirement community I serve in Taylorsville just this past weekend. So the community director called me up, actually it was yesterday morning, to ask what protocols they should put in place to address this situation going forward, because a couple resided in their independent living condos. One spouse was a caregiver, the other spouse had severe dementia, and tragically the caregiver spouse became extremely ill and was taken to the hospital and intubated and could not communicate. So despite having the name of a family member on file, the community could not reach anyone to come and take care of the spouse while his wife was in the hospital. So naming a healthcare agent will not protect you in this kind of emergency. You need a short-term guardian or neighbor or friend who has all the medical and day-to-day information to care for your loved one until a more permanent solution can be found. So whether that means an out-of-town loved one flies in or a professional on-site caregiver can stay with your loved one, otherwise the police will have to be called, and Adult Protective Services will remove your spouse from the home, and it will just be really scary for them. So as you know, statistically, 30% of caregivers will pass away before the loved one they care for does. So that means that this kind of emergency likely will happen to 30% or more of caregivers, and has actually happened to two of my neighbors. Their vigorous and healthy spouses passed away suddenly, and the spouse with a chronic health condition requiring extensive care lingered another 10 to 15 years. They have been living in our neighborhood after their healthy spouses passed away. So if you want to make sure your loved one will not be taken into the care of strangers, then mark, I need an elder protection plan on your worksheet, especially if you do not have many family members or multiple neighbors around that could step in if there's an emergency. And that's really happening as we're becoming a retirement state where people come here to retire, but they leave, they're not living here with family. The other reason you may want to mark that down is if there's anyone in your life you would never want caring or making medical decisions for your loved one. I have a family member, a close family member, who is serving time in federal prison for beating another elderly family member in our family who he had taken in after a 40-year estrangement. He was his adopted son. The son was addicted to drugs, and he beat him one night last year, and because this elderly relative wouldn't fill his narcotic prescription. So his injuries led tragically to his eventual passing. And so, a directive does not exclude anyone proactively from making decisions. So if there's a few people you want to nominate are not available, then the next family member in line gets to make decisions. And if you know you would never want a specific person making decisions, living with, or caring for your loved one, you'll also want an elder protection plan. So please mark that down on your sheet or make a note of that. So what about financial power of attorney? In the interest of time, I am going to defer. I'm just going to tell a brief story, but I just want to let you know that I will be discussing this topic this evening at 6 p.m. tonight in Classroom A. So we will explore this in depth there. So please join me there if you can, if you want, because elder abuse is real. And it's often unknowingly because they just don't know what their responsibilities are as a power of attorney. And then versus guardianship as well, what are the differences? And we'll be exploring that. But I just want to also let you know that please, you absolutely want to explore every possible avenue before turning to the court system. That is only possible with properly executed power of attorney documents. Right now I'm in the middle of a terrible legal mess with 4 other attorneys involved that all started with a guardianship action by a daughter over her mother and sister, and I can't even tell you how different their lives would be right now. It's been 3 years if they could have resolved the problems with a mediator and stayed out of court completely. It would have been a different story. This is a picture of Milo, a different story I was going to tell, but I'm going to defer that story and in the interest of time. So if you have legal documents drafted online without counsel, it really, especially with a power of attorney, having an attorney draft that power of attorney allows that attorney to be able to work with financial institutions if they choose not to accept the power of attorney. So that's another huge advantage. So if you do not have a recent updated power of attorney, then mark on your sheet, please, I need to review my power of attorney documents. Especially if you have a statutory power of attorney, there are a lot, we'll be exploring that later today, there's a lot of scary things that happen if you fill that document out without counsel. There's some things you probably unwittingly may have done that will get you in trouble and create a huge mess. So more on that later. So, okay, we have covered a lot of legal messes, and before we get into the specifics of how to get your questions answered, how we plan and what your next steps are, I do want to address some of the things you may have heard about that do not work when it comes to estate planning. Okay, because if you do these things thinking that you are helping the people you love by doing them, you're not. So, and in fact, I've seen it make things much, much worse for them. So adding your kids to your bank accounts or to the deed of your home is a common strategy we see a lot of people do, but is really the worst thing you can do. Please do not do that. If you have done it already, mark that down on your worksheet or on your document because we can fix it. But you'll definitely want to use the golden ticket offer I've got for you later today. And I'm going to take a moment right now and reach out. Jenny, are you there? And what's the update on getting that worksheet available for those who are participating today? Can you share that with me?
Yes, the link has already been updated and there's been success. I think most of people are able to access that.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. I think you're echoing quite a bit.
The link has
been
posted. Yes, the link has been posted.
I will trust that whatever you said made sense to everyone else. I couldn't understand you. But I will, can you just say yes or no? Is it in the chat or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. I apologize. I couldn't, I can't understand. It's echoing quite a bit and it sounds really fuzzy. So I hope you all are able to hear me all right. And Jenny, am I sounding clear now that we're taking a little bit of a pause?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. So adding your kids to your bank account, not a terrible idea. I'd never add them to your deed. Here's why that's so bad. If you add your kids to your property, or if you get added to your parents' property, and one of you has any sort of creditor issue, a car accident, or a business problem, or a divorce, or anything, that asset could be claimed as an asset available for a judgment. And also, number two, if you need long-term care, and you've simply added your kids as joint owners of bank accounts or real estate, you have not protected those assets at all. All you've done is made it so that when you die, the assets go to them directly without court, which is a positive, but it also comes with some negatives. For example, the loss of one of the only valuable parts of death, which is the erasure of all capital gains taxes upon death. It's the beautiful gift. When all of your capital gains taxes on your properties erased, if you leave it to your loved ones, not with them on your deed. So meaning if you leave assets to your kids in this way, and those assets have untaxed gains built in, you've just taken away the one benefit to them of your death, that they won't have to pay taxes on the asset. So if you transfer it properly and not just by adding their name on there, that's how you get those gains. I actually have a client right now whose parents did some volunteer estate planning and added their kids to the deed of their family cabin. And that family cabin is worth over $1 million. It's back east. And oh my goodness, if they don't undo that, they're going to have to pay an exorbitant amount of capital gains taxes on this cabin once their parents pass away. So we call this poor man's estate planning because it's really only for people who are truly poor or who are likely to keep their family in the poorhouse. You don't have to do that to the people that you love. So bottom line, if you have added an adult child onto your bank account or one of your assets, mark on your sheet that we need to fix your planning, because that is a big sign that you're likely to leave your kids worse off or be left worse off by your parents. because they or you tried to save money on your planning and they actually cost you more. I actually have another client who added her 2 children to her deed, and because of that, the relationship with her children changed, and they became extremely abusive when it came to how she was spending money, because they saw it as directly impacting their inheritance. So as you can see on this slide, that's just one of 6 common techniques people try to use that don't work to save their families money or keep their families out of court. So the other ones are designating a beneficiary, signing a will, relying on a trust schedule, getting estate planning documents online, or transferring the home outright to the kids. And you might be surprised to hear that each and every one of these strategies could cost your family way more than planning the right way while there's still time. So indicate on your worksheet if you or your parents have already done any of these things, so we can make sure you're able to get on our calendar soon. So I can help you to get that taken care of, to review what has been done and fix your planning or your parents' planning before it's too late. Because there becomes a time when it's too late. You cannot change it and that time changes depending on if it's for long-term care planning or for your passing. So if you have a plan, you probably have the typical experience that most people have when getting an estate plan. It's a one-time transaction. You get form documents. It might avoid probate. It might avoid estate taxes. It leaves assets to heirs unprotected. There's no ongoing legal guidance and potential loss of your assets to State Department of Unclaimed Property or Medicaid recovery. So, but really the question is, will it work when your family needs it? And I first discovered this in law school when I brought my estate planning binder into my wills and trust class for my professor to review. And he realized that the estate plan we had paid a lawyer to draft for us was a set of form documents that were never properly executed and were essentially worthless if we were to need them. A colleague of mine also shared her story with me, and I was shocked because her father-in-law died when she was in law school, and he had spent $3,000 on an estate plan with a lawyer in Florida, and he had done so to keep their family from having to deal with the probate court or his ex-wife. But lo and behold, upon his death, they were stuck in probate court and dealing with his ex-wife. And it's just sad. When my colleague had this experience with her father-in-law, she thought for sure it was malpractice, but then she went to go and work for a big law firm that's actually Warren Buffett's personal lawyer, and saw firsthand that the planning that they did is the exact same way for wealthy clients. No communication, no updating, no inventory of assets, no planning for incapacity. And so she left the firm because she didn't want to practice that way. So now I'm here today to make sure your family has the planning they actually need you to have in place to keep them out of court and out of conflict, and to protect your assets from ending up in the hands of the government, and so that you can understand the planning so you can feel confident and secure. So I'm going to share more with you before we complete today about our process, but how we support you and to have the right plan in place for yourself and the people you love. But for now, I'll just say that our process is not just planning for death, because you have a lot of life still to go, and so we call it planning for life, and it really is that. But more on that shortly. Let's cover what happens if you do not have planning in place. This is the big legal mess. This is the picture of it. We've all had leaky faucets. What a mess that makes in our lives. If you have no estate plan and you become incapacitated or die, you have the state's estate plan. So Utah, the government of Utah has decided, has created an estate plan for you. And the state has an estate plan, and it's just called a big legal mess. It consists of going to court, so a judge can appoint someone to make decisions for you and or give your family access to your assets or direct where your assets should go. So this court process is called guardianship and conservatorship if you are incapacitated, or probate if you've died. So the court decides where your money goes, and it may not be to who you would choose or in the amounts you would choose. So court is costly. There are attorney's fees and executor's fees and appraiser's fees, court filing fees, bond premiums, and creditor claims. These fees could have been avoided with a few $1,000s spent on a basic foundational estate plan. So probates today take, in my experience here in Utah, take around a minimum of 12 months in Utah. And it's during this time, your loved ones may not have access to your assets. So who would you rather have your assets available to them, your creditors or your kids? So also the court process is totally public. meaning anyone can go down to the courthouse and pull your court records to see what you own and who's getting it. So here you go, if you wanted to see the will of Jackie Onassis. My point here is that a will is public and it doesn't avoid probate. So when a will enters probate, it puts all the creditors out there on notice that your loved ones will be receiving money. The only plan that is private, avoids probate, ensures your children receive your assets when you want and how you want, and can save you substantial estate taxes is with a properly funded trust. So we can talk more about that later. For now, if you want to make sure your family stays out of court, mark on your worksheet, I want to keep my family out of court. So now, if none of this accounts for the reality that at any time you or your parents could need the support of long-term care. So if that's the case, the average cost of that is $3,000 to $4,000 per month here in our community, which is a screaming deal. If you know anything about long-term care costs compared to other parts of the country, we just had to look at putting our my husband's grandmother in a nursing home or a assisted living in Montrose, Colorado, and it is between it's between $6,000 and $8,000 per month there. 69% of people need long-term care for, on average, 3 years, whether at home or in a nursing home. So the cost of care will cause most families to destitute themselves in order to pay for care if it's needed. But if you plan in advance, this money can be saved for your family. So here's what I want you to do now. So you add up your assets that you have right now that you intend to use for the rest of your life, and indicate how much of that you would like to leave to your kids after you pass. So write this number down on your worksheet, because this is what we get to talk about when we meet. So we can look at how we can plan for that and protect that. So it goes to caring for your spouse or for your kids who have been helping you stay at home and not have to live in a nursing home, and not to the government. But we can only protect those assets if we plan well in advance. This planning has to be done well in advance. There's a period of time that it can't be done. So this is not planning that you can handle after you need it. It's planning that you must do in advance, like now. So I got a sudden phone call last Friday from a relative who told me they were going to be moving grandma into a care facility, and they didn't know how to pay for it, and they were really upset. I scrambled together and gathered details and put together an emergency plan, because there is some emergency things that can be done, but it's not nearly as good as what if you actually plan. So I had encouraged them for years to do this planning, but they didn't want to be bothered. So I found out later that day that they had already applied for Medicaid in January. They just hadn't talked to each other. Amazingly, they had been paying a family caregiver out of their own pockets for years, and did not even have a caregiver contract in place. So now grandma was going to be placed in a facility where her assets would be spent down on her care, when there could have been so much more done to provide for her comfort and financial stability without depleting the assets of the extended family members, if planning had been done in advance. So this will easily cost our family tens of thousands of dollars. And if you're getting a sense that I've been having a lot of interesting experiences, it's almost like my life has been preparing me to present today, because I've had a lot of really crazy experiences about these subjects just in the last couple months. So that's just another one that just barely happened. So finally, and worst of all, after nursing home costs and all the other healthcare costs that could have been covered if you had planned have been paid, if there is anything left, your children or grandchildren, if your child produces you, they get all of your assets outright without any restriction at 18. So I have a client whose nephews inherited a fortune in their late teens and spent it all within 7 months to cruise around the world. So if you want to make sure that they do not receive what you are leaving behind at age 18, please check that on your worksheet. Also you can, if your children are now adults and have minor children at home, you may want to make sure that your grandkids don't inherit from their parents outright. So then you can ensure that what your parents, what your kids and then their kids receive from you is totally protected from lawsuits and against them, as well as future creditors or even a future divorce. So mark that on your worksheet if that is something that is concerning to you. And also, just as a reminder, if you have adult children, they are adults in the eyes of the law, which means you cannot access their medical records or their bank accounts without court intervention if something happens to them. So if you are the person that they turn to for help, that you cannot do that without the proper legal documents. Otherwise, you are sent to the probate court to get guardianship if they don't have capacity to give you that permission. So mark that on your sheet as well. I'm just going to quickly show you this, assets being lost, the State Department of Unclaimed Property. This is the number one thing that you must do. Above everything, please make an inventory of all your assets, where they are and how your family can find them and how to access them, because this is how much is currently in our State Department of Unclaimed Property. Because someone died and their family overlooked an insurance policy or a bank account or investment or retirement account. So this is not a hoax or a scam. This is our country's method of handling payments and accounts where the owner cannot be found after 3 years. So it's how these companies can resolve their accounting. So every so often I check this website for my clients, and I decided to check it out since I was preparing for this presentation. And look what I found. Ding, 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 ding. There's my name. There's Klea Harris. It's not $1 million, I know, but it will pay for a nice date with my husband. And all I have to do is submit this form and sign it because it belongs to me. So the process is just much more complicated if you've already passed away. So fortunately, this could easily have been avoided if you do not, if you get financially organized and make sure your family knows what you have in the event of your death or incapacity. So we build this into our planning process as the very first thing you do, because it's so easy to not get this done or to not update it over time. So we make it easy for you to keep your assets in the hands of the people you love and out of the hands of the government. And so I'll just be sharing in just a couple minutes how you can save $1,000 on your legal planning just by beginning the inventory for your family before we even meet privately. If you do not have a current list of all your accounts and assets, then mark on your worksheet, I need to compile family wealth inventory. That's first, I just want to ask you, if you had to choose between the stories, giving the people you love money, or the values and insights and stories and experiences, what would you choose? Because most people say if they had to choose, they would choose their non-monetary assets, their intellectual and spiritual and human capital. So it makes no sense that most estate plans completely ignore that altogether. So that's why in our planning process, we include that as in supporting you to capture and pass on your most important assets. So especially if you do it yourself or work with a lawyer who doesn't include this kind of support, it's something that's so easy to procrastinate. And I just have to say that I videoed Grandma just a few months before she passed away, and the grandkids were actually able to watch Grandma instead of watching their phones during her viewing. So it was just a powerful experience to hear her insights and counsel. Even though I still have her voicemail saved on my phone, I include this Family Wealth Legacy recording and guide my clients through writing their own personal family letter with every estate plan that I create. So it doesn't cost you extra. It's just part of our process, so your family is gifted with so much more than a few words on a voicemail. And research shows this is a legal mess you can avoid, that those estate plans that include a family letter or some reminder of the meaning and values behind the estate planning documents are much less likely to be challenged by family members. So if you have been meaning to capture your values and insights and stories and experiences and have not yet done that, then please make a note on your worksheet. So now we know what doesn't work: doing nothing, having a will, or getting an estate plan created by a lawyer who just focuses on documents, doesn't ensure the protection of a vulnerable spouse, your kids, or your assets, doesn't ensure your assets are owned in the right way. All of these things. But here's the thing, what you need is different than what any other family needs, because your family dynamics are unique to you and your assets are unique to you. And the law, as it applies to your family dynamics and your assets, are unique to you. So that's why I know we are 2 minutes away from wrapping up. Just want to let you know how you can you probably have a ton of questions. This is just the confines of this kind of situation. That's why I'm just making this available to you. I want to make sure that you leave this conference feeling calm and secure. So normally I'm just going to give you an opportunity to be able to have your questions answered in person with me. So let me just tell you a bit about it. It starts with a family wealth planning session, so you know what to expect. During the family wealth planning session, we're going to walk through your family dynamics, your assets, and answer all the questions and concerns that you have. We're going to talk about everyone you love and everything you own. You're going to educate me, and then we're going to look at what would happen to all of it, to the people you love and your assets, and if you had to be hospitalized or were in an accident. And so that's what the family wealth planning session is about. You are going to choose that fee. The planning that you need is exactly what you decide you want and need. And that's about making the most affordable and effective choices for your family. So our average fees for your foundational planning run between $2,000 and $8,000, depending on your family circumstances. But what's most important is that you'll only choose a fee that's going to save you time and energy and your family money. So by the end of our planning process, you'll know for certainty you're making the best decisions throughout your life, and your family will know how much you cared about and loved them. So in the event of your incapacity or death, because everything will be well handled, this will be something that will be the ultimate, gift for the people that you love. So I just wanted to point out to you in the worksheet, there's the golden ticket that there's a picture of it. If you look down there, just if you want to redeem that, go to your online worksheet. That the link is in your worksheet. Fill in the document that says what concerns that you have that you've been alerted to today, and then you can, so instead, I'm just, honestly, I could have given you a knick-knack, but I wanted to give you something that actually was going to help. So I decided to do something that would truly help you. So you can use the $1,000 of legal services when you book a family wealth planning session with me during this conference. There's just one catch, but it's a good catch, and that is that you get to the golden ticket if you need to book your family wealth planning session today before the conference is over at 8:30 p.m. tonight. And just commit to completing some homework before the family wealth planning session and turning that homework into me. So that homework is just that list of assets and gathering those things together so that I can review that and we can use the best of our time together. So now this homework may seem like a lot to do, but you can only imagine what it'll be like when your children are doing it without your help. So in exchange for you booking today and committing to do your homework, you'll have that family wealth planning session will be free. That's a $750 value plus. We'll take $250 off your planning fees once you choose your fee. So check out that golden ticket. I'm just going to let you know this is what the document looks like, the online worksheet. Just click what things you're concerned about and how else may we serve you. Please put in the code 2020CG. That allows me to know that you attended today and that I can give you that golden ticket discount. And this is my schedule online. This is my email address, or not my email address, my website, angeladvocateslegal.com. You can schedule there. And also just in service of helping and making sure your questions are answered, you're welcome to schedule a free 15-minute phone consultation with me so I can address your individual situation and make sure that you feel empowered and not overwhelmed, because we have talked about a ton today. So I just want to say thank you for joining us today, and I can serve clients that are out of state, so don't worry about that. And if you have any more questions, check out my videos. I put that link on the bottom of your worksheet as well for frequently asked questions. So I hope you will join us later on this afternoon at 6 p.m. in Classroom A for a discussion on powers of attorney versus guardianship. And I hope you were able to get some helpful information through this whirlwind of the last 40 minutes. And we'll talk soon.
We would like to thank Klea for her time. Klea, do you have a few minutes to answer a couple of questions, or?
I'll stay as long as you let me.
So one of the questions, how long or how frequently does the healthcare directive need to be updated?
Okay, so the healthcare directive really needs to respond to your situation. Are people treating you differently that you don't want them to be on your healthcare directive? You've got to update it then. As your health changed so that you feel like you would make different decisions. Sometimes when somebody gets diagnosed with dementia, that impacts the decisions they would make on their health care. Do they want food feeding or not? These are all things that really I'm actually updating a healthcare directive for a client that they just signed their estate plan 4 months ago. But some things have happened in their lives, and we're going to be revisiting that this coming month when I head back to their retirement community. So it
Thank you.
all depends. Yeah.
One more, maybe two, but when is someone with dementia not able to sign a healthcare directive?
Okay. I'm having a hard time understanding. So something about signing a healthcare directive, when someone not be signing a healthcare directive?
At what
Okay, that's a great
stage of
question.
dementia? With dementia.
With dementia, okay. Okay, that's a great question. With the threshold for signing estate planning documents is the lowest threshold. So if you understand your options, if you understand who you are, if you can feel pain, then and you have an opinion, then and you understand what's going on, then that's a situation that I would hope to honor an advanced healthcare directive. Unfortunately, we live in a society with medical personnel that will often defer to family members when there is any level of dementia. And so it's really important to have a great relationship with the person you've nominated for your advanced healthcare directive, because they are going to be your spokesperson, your advocate to the medical community. So, and that's something that you just really want to do as soon as possible. And that's a great example of the sooner the better, the sooner the better. So.
All right, we would like to thank Klea for her time today. And we'd like to thank all of you for joining us in this session. There may be a few questions that we did not get answered, and if you would like to direct those to our education department, or even actually we're going to take all the calls at 801-229-3808, and then we can maybe field some more of those calls or have Klea respond at a later time. So we'd like to thank everybody for coming. Go enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you. And my phone number is at the bottom of that page as well. So you're welcome to give me a call or send me an email, and I'd be happy to help. And just want to be of service to you and enjoy the rest of the conference. We'll see you this evening if you are in classroom A.
Awesome. Thank you so much.